Hello, my friends, and welcome. Welcome to this April Poetry Celebration. I'm delighted you're here. Thank you. I'm Kate Chadbourne, and I'm a poet and teacher, and I'm the founder of the Bardic Academy and the Celtic Wisdom School. I'm hosting this celebration in conjunction with the journal makers Jumping Fox Design, who are very generously providing some prizes for our celebration. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how to win a prize in a bit. So this month is all about reading poetry, writing poetry, and loving poetry. Again, all on your own terms. We have a theme this April, and our theme is people, which is to me very exciting. So I will be sharing with you some poems. We have a poetry mentor, Wes McNair, wonderful poet. A lot more about him coming up. And also some other New England poets who have generously agreed to share some poetry with us. And to top it all off, we will soon have your poems. So how do you participate? Every week through this celebration, I will be giving you a spark, which is a kind of a spark for your writing, and a dare, something to do. And totally optional. You can write poems on the theme or not, your choice. And you can send one poem a week. You can send up to 7 poems a week. And you'll send those to me at kate@katechadbourne.com. I'll put all this in the notes below. Every week by Friday at 5 p.m. So if you'd like to participate this week, that is Friday, April 7th at 5 p.m. Now, I want to ask you a favor this time. Would you very kindly put all of your poems in the body of the email? I just don't have time. A lot of times there's 100 plus poems come in every week, and it's a lot to open attachments. So I'd be so grateful if you'll help me out by sending your poems in the body of your email, and I will be so happy to read them. And every time you send me poems, every week that you send me poems, you are entered into our drawing to win a prize. So we have prizes this year. Let me show you. Jumping Fox Design is giving us 3 of these beautiful binders. This is my binder, which is what I'm using, and I've put in some lovely paper. I'm using this for the celebration this year, and I am some ideas, a log of my own poems, so far 2. Today's the third poem coming, and it's just a beautiful tool for us, and I know that you would love that. I think it's a gorgeous thing. In addition to this, I'm also using, you might remember from last year, Jumping Fox also gave as the youth prize one of these great little jotter notebooks, and I'm using this one to write my very drafty poems. As you can see, this is what a drafty poem looks like: arrows scratching out, all kinds of mess. But the mess is where the flowers come up. So thank you, Jumping Fox Design, for your generosity. And who knows, it could be you who wins a prize this year. I would love that. I will, of course, be throwing something into the pot because it's fun to give prizes. So as I say, our theme is people. And I want to start out right away by reading some poems on the subject of people that I love. More to come, but this week we have a few. This is Wes McNair's beautiful new book. It contains poems from several of his earlier books, so I really encourage you. You might like to have this to read along. It's just a magnificent book. I believe that Wes is one of the best poets about people. He loves people. He looks carefully at them. He is a wonderful observer of people, and he's kind, and he's funny, and he's surprising. So I want to share with you a poem that I think really encapsulates that. This poem is called The Thugs of Old Comics. The Thugs of Old Comics. At first, the job is a cinch. like they said. They managed to get the bank teller a couple of times to the head and blow the vault door so high it never comes down. Money bags line the shelves inside like groceries. They are rich, richer than they can believe. Above his purple suit, the boss is grinning half outside his face. 2 goons are taking the dough in their arms like their first women. For a minute, nobody sees the little thug with the beanie is sweating drops the size of hot dogs and pointing straight up. There is a blue man flying down through the skylight and landing with his arms crossed. They exhale their astonishment into small balloons. "What the?" they say. "What the?" watching their bullets drop off his chest over and over. Soon he begins to talk about the fight against evil, beating them half to death with his fists. Soon they are picking themselves up from the floor of the prison. Out the window, Superman is just clearing a tall building and couldn't care less when they shout his name through the bars. "We're trapped! We got no chance," they say, tightening their teeth, thinking, like you, how it always gets down to the same old shit. No fun, no dough, no power to rise out of their bodies. Love it. Do you? I just love that poem. And I love that we are included in it, because most of us are not Superman. I'm not. There's compassion there and humor and a way in for the rest of us. So that gives you an idea. Lots more coming from Wes. Now, I want to read a poem by our new poet laureate. So this is her latest book called The Herding Kind, Ada Limon. Let me show you. That's Ada here. And I just loved this poem. Again, a poem about a person, someone she loves. And it's called My Father's Mustache. Let us pause to applaud the white bell-bottom suit, the wide flared collar, the black, thick coiffed hair in this photo my father has sent of himself at a gathering of Sonoma Highway in the early 70s. I can't stop looking at the photo. There is a swagger that feels almost otherworldly, epic, like Lorca expounding in Buenos Aires, not the form, but the marrow of form. He is perfect there, my father, in the photo. I feel somehow as if I've perched on a bay laurel branch nearby, though not born yet. It's in black and white, the photo. You can see his grin behind his lush mustache. Is it time that moves in me now? A sense of ache and unraveling. My father, in his pristine white suit, the eye of the world, barely able to handle his smooth, unbroken stride. It's been a year since I've seen him in person. I miss how he points to his apple trees, and I miss his smooth face that no longer has the mustache I always adored. As a child, I once cried when he shaved it. Even then, I was too attached to this life. Another beauty. And to be attached to this life is to be attached to people, and that moves me so much. I want to read a poem by someone I am very attached to, and she's not technically my niece, but I call her my niece, and this is her book, Crescent Moons and Sways That Swoon, and her name is Kaitlyn Anderson. And this is a poem called Pauline. And again, what I love about this poem is the sharp observation, the truth-telling, and the deep kindness. Pauline. She is dust and berries and color, leaving rooms cleaner than they were. She is full, in love with the space that she occupies. She snaps only gently, and when it is justified. Brave in her Irish roots, she is wrinkled and smoky. She leaves plenty of time for honesty and tea. She says things without apology. Make sure you and your husband have separate TV rooms. This makes for a happy marriage. And I'd rather have you slap me in the face than refuse my hospitality. In a brogue that is harsh and unpolished and old-fashioned and loving, jacketed in tradition and words of God and family suppers, she nibbles at her food and offers another pot of tea. That's marvelous. Well done, Kaitlyn. Finally, from other poets right now, I want to read a poem by Doug Holder. Doug Holder is really a dynamo in our local poetry scene. He's a nationally published poet. He is a wonderful welcomer of other poets. He's done so much to right now he's actually the co-president of the New England Poetry New England Poetry Society. Just want to make sure, club, I should say. Right, the publisher of Ibbotson Street Press. I'll put information about him and, of course, about Wes and Ada, and I'll put some information about everybody in the links below. But I just admire Doug so much, and I was so excited when I reached out and asked him if he would send us a poem. Doubly so because the poem is for his late wife, Dianne Robitaile, and I knew her and loved her, and she was herself a wonderful poet. So this is that circle of poets. And this poem by Doug Holder is called Do You Still Love Me? For my late wife, Dianne Robitaile. I would ask her that every day. I felt that any moment the charade would be unmasked, that it would all slip away from my sweaty palm, like some wayward worm looking to tunnel into the ground. I always felt the whips of my mother's disapproval, her damning rhetorical question, why can't you be like other young men? It drove me like some barking dog, begging to be thrown a meaty red bone. Do you still love me? Do you still love me? And her voice, increasingly distant from some void beyond my understanding, whispers, I do. I do. Oh, poetry, I'm telling you, it's the best thing going. Well, I want to share with you one of my poems from this week. And this week, it actually gives us our spark and dare. And I'll explain that in a minute. So my poem is called The Power Man. The Power Man. The Power Man told me his father's name is Francois, and he, born here, is Francis. That in the last storm people yelled at them, called them corrupt, even when they'd risked their necks atop the poles in all that mess. That the new meters, digital, won't last like the old mechanical ones you could fix, but change comes, and maybe there's some good in it. That he and his wife downsized and bought a house with a pool so the grandkids, aged 2 and 4, would want to come swim and make visiting a habit. That tonight everyone's due at 6 for cake and ice cream, and that, yes, today's his birthday. Why did he tell me all these things? Mainly because I asked. And like wire to wire, house to house, all over town, asking is the switch that turns on the light. So, asking is the switch that turns on the light. This week, our spark and dare are kind of a twofer. So, what I'm inviting you to do is ask, have a conversation with somebody, and really listen. It's one of the best gifts we can give another person is our attention, especially our approving, positive attention. Makes the whole world better. So ask somebody, have a conversation, and write a poem from that conversation. See what happens. And again, so our larger theme here is people. You can write poems on the theme. You can write poems that aren't on the theme. Whatever you want to do, it will be wonderful. So I hope that you will write and send some poems again by Friday, this Friday, April 7th, about 5 o'clock. Please paste them into the body of your email. That's a real help to me. And I will be so excited to read them. And I'll be featuring some of them in next week's video. So thank you so much for being here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That's just so encouraging. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and maybe share this with a friend who either would like to hear some poems or maybe would like to join us in our celebration. So thank you again, as ever, for being here and for being interested in poetry, and let's have a wonderful month together. All my best until next week.